I am
That's it.
recording.
That's right.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Hi. Hello
It's
from
Everybody.
the
Tartarus.
literal rascals. We are back and we're all here. All one, two, three, four,
Hmm.
five, six of us. Yes. So this is
Yes.
very exciting. We're all together again. And it just makes me hyena happy and peacock proud.
That's a great description.
Happy and pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
Hyena
description. I like
happy and
that.
peacock proud. So I'm just so happy to see you all. As we
Well,
continue,
I'm happy as Hades. How
I
about
get.
that?
I was gonna say, I guess I'm walrus proud.
I'm happy as Zeus.
You're feeling zesty as Zeus. There you go. You're feeling
Yeah,
zesty
there
as
we go.
Zeus.
I'm as cool as a clam.
I like
Nice.
that. That was great.
all right, honey.
Mm,
Yeah, I am smooth as
mm.
duck snot.
Ew.
Ooh, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
no,
That's even
I can't
cleaner than
even.
Bob's
Taking it
spit.
over that cliff.
Uh,
Yeah.
Just taking it over.
That's like
So
Sex on the Beach.
welcome back, everybody. We are on our third installment already. So this is three out of four, and we are at last. We left. Let me see. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So you've got Poseidon and Hades.
And
Hades
Zeus.
drops Persephone off onto Earth, and of course, with her being the goddess of spring, she has to do her due diligence. So she has an apartment, drops her off, and then he goes to see his brother Poe. Poe talks him into going to this party with a bunch of babes at his palace. So they show up
Yeah.
to his palace.
Boys' night.
Yeah, man. They show up to his palace, they party, come to find out it is not his palace. He lied about the whole thing. It is Athena's palace. Well,
Mhm.
she shows up and goes bat
Off.
scooting crazy.
Hmm.
And so she
scoot,
she
scoot.
Says
cast
everybody.
a spell on her own uncle, Hades. And then she ends up casting that spell on Medusa and her sisters Eno and Riley, turns their hair into snakes. Well, in the meantime, they are told by their parents to go and hide out from Athena because Athena also wants to give her a tail. Poseidon said nothing, but Hades tried to say, listen, this wasn't because Athena thought it was Medusa's idea to have that party at her palace.
Always blaming women.
Yep. Yes. So, anyway, yes. But then the only person that came to her defense was Hades. And she turned him into stone, and he was able to reverse that curse and turn back into Hades. In the meantime, he is going on a quest to try to find Medusa, get to Medusa before Athena does. And so
Yep.
he's also inquiring, hey, what's going on with Athena and Medusa? Why does she
Interesting
have
that.
such animosity toward Medusa? Not only is Hades trying to figure
Where's
that
the beef?
out, Persephone is trying to, give him some insight, and she's not necessarily figuring it out. And she was telling Poe, well, I know that we had a party and we had a great time, but Athena never took off her helmet.
And who doesn't
Mhm.
take their helmet off at the pool?
Hmm.
Somebody who's
Mm.
got messed up hair.
The
That's
Mandos.
that was good too, though. I like that, Brad.
Well, that's true. You can't show your face. You're right. That's true. She could have been a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Maybe she started. Yeah, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, and also, didn't he want to find something for? He called his uncles the
Yes, the
Jump on in
Cyclops.
here.
Cyclopses.
Y'all jump on in here. Don't let me
All
do
right.
all the talking.
Yeah.
Well, let's not forget that Hades and Persephone became godparents to
Yep.
that bad little baby boy,
Forcefully.
Perseus.
Perseus.
Uh-huh.
Man, that boy is
That kid's
bad.
bad.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a little
Yes, he is.
badass.
He's a
He
bad
scared the
seed.
dog. Who scares a
Oh,
three-headed dog?
Right.
but wait until you get further into the story.
Uh-oh. Really?
Oh
Yeah.
no.
And so
Too bad.
Danae is his
Oh,
mother.
wait. And but Perseus is the son of Zeus. So again, this is
Yep.
Yes,
Zeus
but wait a
doing
minute. But
stuff
how
and then
was
avoiding
Danae
his responsibilities.
impregnated?
By
Oh, by the golden
golden
shower.
rain.
Yeah, that's right. That golden shower.
Ugh, don't why you
I
say
Walking
it
know
away
like
golden
from
that?
that.
shower.
Walking
You
Hey,
away.
that's what
didn't
it
have to
said.
say
Golden
it like
raindrops.
that.
Right?
She was
Yeah,
covered in a
so
spray of golden raindrops. How about
yeah.
that?
We've got to change our rating now.
Yes. Yep.
So
So,
All I know is
yes, Denai
nobody's
is
mentioned the
on the run.
mechanical owl yet. What's up?
Right? I know. We haven't had any kind of sign of Bubo yet. I'm very upset
Stop
because I
it.
want to see Bubo. Right? I mean,
What are you
I want to see
talking?
it. Yeah. OG Clash of the Titans. Thank
well,
you.
now we're going to continue on
Oh.
with the story and figure out exactly what's going on with Poe,
Medusa.
what's going on with Medusa, what's going on with everybody.
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be very interesting. Question: who wants to go first?
I do.
Yay, Melanie first.
I can go
All right.
second.
Well,
Yay,
all right,
Drew is
James.
second. Let me see if this will. It will not let me put you
James is
guys in
second.
order.
It was James who said second.
Okay, wait.
So Drew's going to be third.
Yeah, I'll go third.
Drew's third. Who was second again? I'm sorry.
James.
James.
James. I'm sorry. And Drew's
And I'll go.
third.
Yep, I'll go after James.
I'll go fourth.
Okay.
Bad cleanup.
Well, then I'm sixth.
Oh,
Cleanup is fourth.
So we are all in order, as you can see. And I shouldn't have a problem, right? You'd think. But that doesn't always work out that way, right?
Okay.
What page are we on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
84.
We are on page
84.
84.
Yeah, chapter 7.
Seven.
The Big Cheese.
Got
It's
it.
good
Chapter
sugar.
The big cheese.
Okay, let's do a sound check.
Check. 1, 2, 1,
Check,
2.
check. Oh, that check.
That's fine. Perfect. That's good.
How about that?
Yes, that's
Okay.
good too.
Fantastic. So, whenever you're ready, Melanie, hit it. Chapter number and title.
Chapter 7. The Big Cheese. The next morning at dawn, Persephone and I were leaving Villa Pluto when someone slipped a note under the door. I ran and flung it open. No one was there. Only a whiff of a ghost. What is it, Hades? Asked Persephone. It's from Medusa, I exclaimed. We hadn't heard from her in more than a year, and I'd been worried. I read it out loud. Greetings. Persephone, when you come back to Earth today, will you bring a small bunch of Stygian riverwort? I'll send someone to your apartment to pick it up. You're a peach. My best to you, Hades. Guess who?
Okay.
Scratch my head. In the underworld, in Medusa want with Stygian riverwort. The stuff grows like a weed on the banks of the Styx. That's the only place it grows. Beats me, said Persephone, but it's easy enough to get. I drove Persephone to the river and waited while she picked some wort. Then I drove her up to her earthly apartment and carried in her mountain of luggage. We said our goodbyes, and I drove swiftly back to my kingdom, where I had yet another problem to solve. Lately, the ghosts had been complaining about Hermes. They said he was changing their relatives' outrageous prices for driving them down to the underworld at that rickety old bus of his. Being the god of business, executives, and thieves, Hermes always drives a hard bargain. But now they were getting out of hand. I waited on the bank of the Styx that morning for Hermes. The little god may have been a thief, but he was punctual. His one way to the underworld, but always arrived at 7 o'clock.
11.
11.
Oh, 11 o'clock. I'm sorry. On the dot.
Okay.
But that morning, 11 came and went, and no bus arrived. 12 o'clock, and still no bus. At quarter to 1 o'clock, I was boiling mad. Jared, I called. Has Hermes ever been this late before? Never, Sharon said. Usually shows up right on time. I hope nothing's wrong, he added. A poor ferryman can't make a living without any passengers, Lord Hades. Bear me, Sheriff, I muttered. The old river taxi driver charged each ghost 1 gold coin to cross the river Styx. If a relative forgot to put a gold coin under a loved one's tongue, that ghost would have to wait on the far shore forever. There had never, ever brought anyone over for free. I sat down on a rock, my stomach growled. I wished I had brought a snack. At last, I heard a rumble that wasn't my stomach, and I saw the nose of Hermes' ancient bus rounding the last curve of the underworld highway. With a squealing of brakes, the bus came to a stop beside the river. Hermes jumped out. Last stop, Hermes called. He flapped the little wings on
Okay.
his helmet.
Little wings on his helmet and sandals and flitted over the heads of the ghost. Only stop, actually. Every ghost out. I strode over to Hermes. Where have you been? You're almost 2 hours late. Not my fault. Hermes flapped higher, just out of my reach. There was a crowd. Don't try to blame it on traffic. I cut in. The two of us are the only ones who ever drive on the underworld highway. I don't mean traffic, Hermes said, still treading air just above my head. You know how I pick up passengers at Ghost Point? I nodded. Well, when I pulled up this morning, a huge crowd was gathered there. All my passengers wandered over to see what was going on, and I couldn't get them rounded up and onto the bus. Hermes fluttered over to some straying ghost. Stay in line for the river taxi, he shouted. Will you land, Hermes? I asked when he flapped back. I'm getting a stiff neck from trying to look at you. Okay.
Hermes fluttered to the ground and sat down on a rock. I sat down too. The king of Argos was there, he said. It was a terrible fury. King Argos, I said. Hermes nodded. His servant dragged a wooden chest to the seashore, and the king ordered them to put his daughter inside. What? I shouted, leaping to my feet. Do you mean Danae? I pronounced that right?
Yes.
Danae?
Mm-hmm.
Hermes shrugged. I don't know her name, he said, or the name of her son. He was screaming his head off. At last, a servant managed to force him into the chest with his mother. Oh no, I cried. The queen was wailing up a storm, Hermes went on. She begged the king to let them out of the chest. All the people on the shore were crying. Even my passengers were crying, which isn't usual, for ghosts. Hermes, quick, tell me what happened. Take it easy, Hades, said Hermes. The servants nailed the lid under the chest, then they
carried
carried
the
the
chest
chest
through the surf to a small boat. The king ordered them to row out beyond the waves and dump the chest into the sea. Oh, did they do this awful deed? I asked. Hermes nodded. So you see, I couldn't very well yank my passengers away. I didn't wait to hear any more. I took off running. Minutes later, I was in my chariot, galloping up the underworld highway. I tried phoning Poe as I headed to Earth. He didn't answer. I had to find him. He was my only hope of saving Danae and Perseus. I parked at Phaetons and astro-traveled to Poe's island. Poe! I cried, running up the walk to Cabana Calypso. Poe! A sleepy Poe appeared on the palace balcony.
Okay.
Oh, bro. Melanie?
Did I get ahead of someone?
No, it's
No,
an
no.
there's still more on that page, but I'll read it.
Yeah.
I know our books are
It's
different.
top of page 90, later, Poe.
A sleepy Poe appeared on my palace balcony.
Okay.
It's
Later,
the crack of
Poe.
afternoon, Hades.
Yeah, in my book too. That continues for another 2 paragraphs on page 89.
It's the crack of afternoon, Hades. It's an emergency, Poe, I called. You've got to hitch up your dolphins, now! After a few minutes that seemed like hours, Poe appeared at the palace door. You wouldn't believe the party I threw last night.
Okay, sorry about that, y'all.
Later, Poe, I said. I told him about Danye and Perseus. Ghost Point, he said. Let's go, bro! We ran down to the dock, and soon we were speeding over the waves. My stomach was lurching with every bump, so I was glad when Poe slowed his dolphins. He handed me the reins. Hold the team steady, Hades. Right back. Poe! I cried. What? Poe dove into the ocean. I heard a series of clicks, like seashells tapping each other. A minute later, Poe rose the water surface and pulled himself onto the chariot. What were you doing? I asked him. Sending a message to Sid, Poe said. Coded, of course. If anyone can find the wooden chest, Sid can. We should be hearing from them any minute now, bro. Even as Poe spoke, two heads popped out of the water besides Poe's chariot. Special Agent Curious, reporting Lord Poseidon, one said in a musical voice. Also, Special Agent Mirius, said the other.
Okay.
Both agents were sea blue swimming caps, monogrammed with the letter SNIT. We have spotted the wooden chest, said Special Agent Chorus. It is barely afloat. Two notorious off the islands of Spheres, said Special Agent Maris. Spheres, said Poe, thinking, all right, is this the best we can do? See that it washes safely ashore on the south side of the island, near the home of Ditches the fisherman. It shall be done, Lord Poseidon, said Special Agent Chorus. The south shore, Poe repeated, not the north shore. Yes, Lord Poseidon, called Special Agent Maris. The south shore. And with that, the two disappeared into the sea. For the first time since I've heard Hermes tell, I felt a small flicker of hope. Poe gave a whistle, the dolphin sped off, and I had grabbed onto the side of the chariot and crossed into the sea. We should make shivers in 10 minutes. Ugh.
Okay.
Poe shouted to me over the noise of his team. We'll watch and make sure that Dictes finds the chest and opens it. What's wrong with the north shore of Syracuse? Yelled at Poe. That's where Dictes' brother Polydectes lives, Poe yelled back. Polydectes is the king of the island. He's wicked, Hades. Even better for Danae and Persephone to drown than for them to end up in his hands. Look, Poe shouted, pointing towards a distant shore. That's Serapos ahead. And hey, bro, there's a wooden chest. I squinted into the distance and searched the sea. Then I saw it moving at a great speed atop the crest of a wave. Agents Corius and Marius had to be under the water pushing it. Next wave at its beach, said Poe. The truck rose high on a breaker, which slid it gently up onto the shore. Poe grinned. Snick comes through again. A mortal who had been fishing in the surf ran over to the truck. He bent down, inspecting it. He gave a sudden start, then with something from his tackle box.
From his tackle box, he pried off the lid. I held my breath. Watching, slowly, Danae rose up out of the chest. She held Perseus in her arms. The boy was brawling loudly. Yes, they were alive! Oh, said Poe, that boy can really well. Guess who his father is? Fussing that loud, said Poe. Gotta be Zeus. Well, mission accomplished, Poe, I said. Nice work. Excuse me. It was, wasn't it, Poe smiled. I'll send word to Dictes and let him know what's wrong. He revved up his dolphins. He'll take care of Danae and Perseus. He turned his chariot around and he headed back to his palace. Excuse me, y'all. Make sure Dictes doesn't tell anyone who they are, I warned Poe. If King Acrisius finds out that Perseus is alive, he'll send his henchmen to Serapos to kill him. You think they should go to Snip? Poe asked. I shook my head. Not
I'll be
necessarily.
quieter.
Acrisius will never suspect that Danae and Perseus. Okay.
I'll be quieter.
Survived his poor plot. But what about Telephanes? Did he confide in him? Oh, Dickie knows what a
I'll
freak
tell
his
him I'll
brother
be
is,
done.
Joe told me. Telecades thinks he's such a big cheese, way too big to be a king of only one little island. I hear he has a scheme to take over other islands around here. How? I asked. I hate to tell you, bro, said Poe, but it's a nasty plot. He's obsessed with having someone bring him Medusa's head. Her head? I cried. What? Poe nodded. He heard what Athena did to Medusa. How anyone who sees her face will be turned to stone. They put out the word around here and will pay handsomely for anyone who'll go after Medusa, behead her, and bring him her head in a bag. That's abominable, I cried. Really? Said Poe. I guess he figured he'll row over to another island, walk to see the king, and the king shows up and pull Medusa's head out of the bag, and bingo! A king's a statue.
Okay.
He wants to use Medusa's head as a weapon? I cried. That makes my ichor boil. Don't worry about Medusa, Poe said. She's in no danger from old Polly. How do you know? I said. Just trust me on this, bro, said Poe. It took a while for my ichor to simmer down, and we didn't say much for the rest of the trip. When we reached Poe's island, I asked him to let me know if there was ever trouble on Seriphos. Then I astro-traveled to my chariot and started for the underworld. On the way, I thought about Poe. He seemed very sure that Medusa was safe. How could she be? Now she had a vicious goddess and an overambitious king trying to slay her. Oh, how I wished I could warn her. When I got home, a letter from guess who was waiting for me. Dear H, I've put the Stygian riverwort to good use. I hear you're worried about me. Don't be. I've never been better. E and R are fine
Okay.
too.
E has had some success with her photographs, and R is busy sculpting. We think of you often. G.W. I was stunned. The only way Medusa could know I was worried about her was from Poe. He must have contacted her right after I left him. Now I was worried. If word got out about where Medusa was, Athena would find her for sure. Obviously, Poe knew where Medusa was hiding. Could I trust my party animal brother to keep his mouth shut?
Okay.
We're on chapter 8, right? Am I reading
Correct.
that correctly? Yeah.
Yeah.
Chapter 8, Cheese Puppery. Over the years, a few more letters came from Medusa. The latest one said, Dear H and P, E won a photo contest. R is having a gallery show. I'm busy too. Al's, well, we're all's well here. All's hell. Oh, look. All's well where we are, which is, oops, can't really say. GW.
Damn.
She never said much, but Persephone and I were always grateful to know that she was safe and that Athena had managed to track her down, or hadn't managed to track her down. But we still worried. We didn't understand why Athena hated Medusa, her sister, so.
Okay. Much. And until we find out why, there was nothing we could do to turn things around. Persephone tried her best to find out. Whenever she was up on Earth or on Mount Olympus, she made a point of hanging around Athena just to see if she could learn anything. And finally, one evening, And finally, one evening, as Serby and I were making the rounds of my kingdom, Peaphone called me, sounding very excited. Hades, I have good news. I had lunch at the Olympus Diner, and guess who was sitting in the next booth? Athena and Hermes. I heard Athena tell Hermes that she'd gone to a steer. Oh, that's good news, I asked. Just listen, Hades, said Persephone. Athena asked the seer if she would ever find Medusa, and the seer said she never would, not on her own. That's good news, right? Oh, could be, but with the seers, you never know. Is that all the seer said? Well, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear everything, Persephone admitted, and the waiter kept interrupting, trying to tell them the specials, so it was sort okay.
Confusing, but I'm pretty sure the seer said Athena could find the Gorgons only with the help of a mortal with a purse. It's something like that. It could be many mortals, I pointed out. Oh, it could be, agreed Persephone. Purses are a big accessory right now. But can you picture Athena stooping to ask a mortal for help? I don't think so. You're right, I told her. Maybe this is good news. We had no sooner said goodbye and hung up than my phone rang again. Big bro! It's me, Poe. We have a problem on Seriphos. But Poe, just last week you said Dickie's was taking good care of Danae and Perseus. He is, said Poe. But Perseus is a handsome young man now. Already, I exclaimed. Those mortals, they age so fast. Perseus is also boastful and obnoxious, Poe went on. Like father, like son, I said. But I'm not
Okay.
worried.
How much trouble can a boastful young man get into on a little island? Plenty, said Poe. For starters, Danae is still very beautiful. King Polydectes caught sight of her, and he's been courting her. Now he wants to marry her. Danae doesn't want to marry him, does she? Pfft, no way. Danae can't stand Polydectes, Poe said. Whenever the king comes to visit, Perseus hovers around, protecting her. He brags that he can keep his mother safe from unwelcome suitors. This makes Polydectes furious. He's put the word out that he wouldn't mind if Perseus disappeared permanently. I'll go to Seriphos now, Poe, I said. I'll talk some sense into Perseus. At the sound of the name, Cerberus let out a low growl. You do that, big bro, said Poe. And hey, stop by the palace after. I'm having a few minor sea goddesses over for some surf and turf. Thanks anyway, Poe, I told him. I hung up and turned to my dog.
And I turned to my dog. So, Serby, want to come with me to see Perseus? Serby gave me a triple dirty look, jumped from the chariot, and took off running for Villa Pluto. I grabbed my helmet from the back seat of the chariot, tossed it into my wallet, then I turned my steeds toward the well-worn path of the underworld highway and drove up to Earth. From Pantheon, I astro-traveled to the north shore of Sepphoris, landed next to Polydectes' palace. It was blazoned with lights and filled with laughing and talking tipsy mortals. The king was having a party. I put on my helmet and slipped invisibly into the palace. I found myself in a huge ballroom. A banner on one wall read, "Congratulations, King Polydectes."
Okay.
Against the opposite wall was a long buffet table. I made my way over to it. Polydectes might be a cruel tyrant, but he sure laid out a nice buffet. I was careful to let no one see the cheese puffs, mini pizzas, and cheddar crackers floating up off the platters into my mouth. Not not bad for a ambitious less snack. As I ate, I looked around. I spotted my host lounging on a golden couch, sorry. He wore a golden robe. His thin brown hair was combed over his shiny scalp. He had a skimpy beard and small, cool eyes. A servant was popping grapes into his mouth. Enough grapes, the king snapped. King Polly,
Oh
King
my
Polly
God.
wanted a cracker. I ducked out of the way as the servant rushed over to the buffet table. At the far side of the room, I caught sight of Perseus standing in the midst of the group of young men. I tossed several cheese puffs into my mouth and made my way over to him. I was right. Perseus had grown into a handsome young man. Yet he was clearly Zeus' son. He had the
Okay. Same curly dark hair, the same stubborn mouth. I would have known him in an instant, even if he hadn't been standing there boasting and bragging and lying like a pro. I caught so many fish today, Perseus was saying. I bet I set a new world record. How like his father he sounded. 50 fishermen tried to pull in the net, Perseus went on, but they couldn't, so I did it all by myself. It was clear that Perseus had inherited a good dose of Zeus's mythomania. Several young men muttered and wandered off. Danae had never really managed to teach Perseus any social skills. I was about to tap him on the shoulder and tell him I wanted to speak to him when one of Polydectes' servants climbed up onto a little stage-like platform. Attention, he called. Presenting King Polydectes and his future bride. Bride? I froze. Was Danae here? Had she agreed to marry this evil king after all? Guests began to cheer as King Polydectes, okay.
And the chubby young woman walked onto the platform. She didn't exactly look overjoyed about being engaged to the king. King Polydectes, your loyal subjects wish you happiness in your marriage to Princess Halala. Hear, 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 cried all the guests. What a relief. Poe had gotten it wrong. The king didn't want to marry Danae after all. It's a good thing that Polydectes is marrying Princess Haea, Perseus said to the few young men still gathered around him. Now he will leave my mother alone. Don't bet on it, said the young man standing next to him. Polydectes is just waiting to see what gifts we're going to give him. If our presents aren't good enough, Polydectes won't go through with the wedding. But yet another young man. He's done it 6 times before. Loyal servants, the servant said. I'm sorry, loyal subjects, the servant said. You may now reveal the wedding gifts you shall bestow upon the king and his bride.
Okay.
Showing gifts before the wedding? I'd never heard of such a custom. If it was common, surely my own bride, Persephone, who knew all about big, splashy weddings, would have told me about it. I drifted back across the ballroom to the buffet table. All the mortals were showing their gifts, so I pretty much had the whole spread to myself. I sampled a cream cheese stuffed olive. Excellent. I helped myself to several more. My king, one guest called out, to celebrate your marriage, I shall give you this platter painted with the image of a bull. If you must, King Polydectes sighed. Clearly a bull platter had not been on his wish list. King Polydectes, another guest called, I shall give you 2 silver wine goblets. Oh, only 2? The king yawned, showing a mouthful of half-masticated crackers. I moved down the table. The figs stuffed with goat cheese looked promising. I took one.
My king,
Called yet another guest.
I shall give you this handsome cheese maker.
Polydectes rolled his eyes.
Okay.
I finished off the figs and moved back to the cheese puffs. They were lighter than air. Yum. Your Highness, look. It is a great big cheesemaker, the guest added, realizing that his gift had not been well received, for making vast quantities of cheese. I picked up 3 more puffs when the king leaned over and whispered something to his nearest servant. The servant looked sheepishly into the crowd. King Polydectes is not satisfied with your gifts, he said. Do better next week, or his wedding to Princess Halia will be called off. Princess Halia broke into a grin. I glanced at Perseus. His fists were clenched. Suddenly, he cried out, King Polydectes! My cheese puff-filled hand froze halfway to my mouth. What was he up to? The king looked scornfully down at Perseus. Marry Princess Halia, Perseus cried, and I shall give you a wondrous gift. I stuffed the puffs into my mouth. I hardly tasted them. What was Perseus doing?
Okay.
King Polydectes sneered. I'll be the judge of that. Marry Helena, cried Perseus. Now she'll give you what you want most in the world. Oh no, now I knew what he was up to. I had to stop him. I quickly gulped down the cheese puffs and ran towards Perseus. I grabbed him and poof, he vanished into the air. Then I figured out what to do with him. Name it, growled the king, or be still. And before I could get to him, the foolish young man cried out, I, Perseus, swear to bring you the head of the Gorgon Medusa. I literally choked on my cheese puffs. I was too late. Dun.
Dun dun. Chapter 9. Smoked but Gouda.
Love
A
the
smile spread. A smile spread slowly across Polydectes' thin lips. A smile that told me Perseus had fallen into the evil king's trap. Polydectes wanted to be rid of the boy. If Perseus found Medusa and looked at her, he'd be turned to stone. That was the real present the king was hoping for. Then King Polydectes would be free to marry Danae. But if Perseus somehow managed to bring the king Medusa's head, then Polydectes would have his dream weapon. It was a win-win game for old Polyde. Yes, Polydectes told Perseus, this is what I most desire. But tell me, boy, how will you find Medusa? No one knows where she lives. Okay.
I shall go to the oracle at Delphi and learn the location of Medusa, Perseus declared. I winced. Where had he gotten this brilliant idea? From his grandfather? King Perseus? The Sibyl will tell me where to find the Gorgons, Perseus went on. I shall travel to their hideaway, however far it may be, and I, Perseus, will cut off Medusa's head and bring it to you. My ichor started boiling over again. These mortals, they were shameless. Go, said Pericles. Perseus turned and walked quickly out of the ballroom. I circled by the buffet, scooped up one last handful of cheese puffs, then followed Perseus into the night. Perseus headed down to the beach. and began untying a rowboat. I thought about just astro traveling to Delphi and meeting Perseus there when he arrived, but as I watched him struggling with the rope, I realized that he needed my help, even to get his boat untied. So I
So I
lent
l-
my inevitable my invisible fingers so I lent my invisible fingers to the task, then leapt from the shore onto the boat.
Okay.
Ye gods! Exclaimed Perseus as I landed with an invisible thud. What strange winds blow this night? He steadied the little craft and began rowing away from Seriphos. The waves were high, and Perseus was a lousy oarsman. With all those cheese puffs sloshing around in my gut, it took all my godly willpower not to get seasick. I can do it, Perseus mumbled to himself as he rowed. I will bring Polydectes the Gorgon's head, then he will marry Halia and leave my mother alone. I can do it. This, from a mortal without a sword, without a helmet, without a plan. Only a son of Zeus could have so much misplaced confidence. Perseus rowed on. Finally, I spotted the shore of Greece, and not a moment too soon. If I hadn't been invisible, I would have been a sickly shade of green. Perseus pulled the boat ashore and headed toward Delphi. I trudged along beside him. After a while, my feet began to hurt, and I was reminded of the old days. And the only way we gods could get anywhere was on foot.
Okay.
We even had to hike up Mount Olympus. Then we learned how to astro travel, and that was the end of blisters on our godly feet. Sometimes I think it's the little things like astro traveling that make being a god so worthwhile. 3 days later, Perseus and I arrived in Delphi. We looked up at the oracle's temple, which sat halfway up Mount Parnassus. On its steep side, a superfluous yellow haze hung over the mountain. Oh, Sepphoris. No bird sang in the trees, no nymphs frolicked in the nearby streams. It was a place of smoke and silence. Perseus started up the stone steps cut into the mountain. I was right behind him. The path was lined with signs of the Mount Perseus Hotel. For the Mount Perseus Hotel, which advertised, among other luxuries, a smoke-warmed hot tub and shuttle service directly to the Sibyl. There were souvenir stands, too. One featured one and only talking Sibyl dolls. Press the button and she'll tell you the future. Perseus stepped up to the first official-looking mortal he saw, a woman wearing a badge.
Okay.
That read, "My name is Villa. Welcome to Delphi." "I am here to see the Sibyls," said Perseus. "You and a half, Reese," muttered Bella. There was the That's a lady, my fault. There's the line. Perseus looked where Villa pointed. The line would the line wound all the way around the base of the mountain. "Ye gods," said Perseus, "is there's no way I can cut the front of the line?" "Could be," Villa said. "What have you got? Gold coins?" "I have no gold. I have no gold," said Perseus. "Silver?" said Villa. "I have no silver," said Perseus. "Probably no jewels either, huh?" said Villa. Perseus shook his head. Villa shrugged. "As I said, there's the line." Perseus walked over to the end of the line. "I figured it would be a good 3 hour wait. They gave That gave me a chance to carry out a little scheme of my own. I left Perseus standing in line and continued visibly up the path until I reached the oracle.
Okay. Entrance. Now, so taking Taking care not to bump into any of the waiting mortals, I flipped the open sign over so that it read closed. Then I slipped into the cave. The Sibyl, a young mortal priestess, sat on a tripod, a high three-legged stool on the very edge of an enormous crack in the cave floor. Clouds of yellow smoke rose up from some mysterious source below. Psst, I said. Sibyl! The Sibyl turned her head, looking around. Her eyes were very bloodshot, and no wonder. All that smoke could not have been good for her. It's me, Hades, king of the underworld, I said. I'm here, but I'm invisible. The Sibyl closed her eyes. Speak, pilgrim! What is your question for the oracle? I'm not a pilgrim myself, I explained. But I'm here with one. His name is Perseus. He's going to ask where to find Medusa and Gorgon. The Sibyl frowned. Go on. Could you do me a huge favor, Sibyl? I said. Could you tell Perseus that Medusa lives in the opposite direction from where she really lives? Okay.
The Sibyl's eyes popped open in surprise. Suddenly the ground began to rumble. Whoosh! An angry billow of dark gray smoke belched up from a crevasse. It was so thick I lost sight of Sibyl. I could hardly breathe. Hades, is that you? A voice called from inside the smoke. Yeah, I managed. It's me, Mother Earth, said the voice. Your Granny Gaia. Granny, I said. This is a surprise. Why? Snapped Granny Gaia. Who did you think would be speaking to you from deep inside the earth? A wood sprite? Now listen here, Hades. Did I just hear you ask my Sibyl that fib? I guess you could say that. I admitted, puffing from the smoke. But it's for a worthy cause, Granny. Perseus wants to find Medusa so he can behead her. If that is her fate, so be it, snapped Granny Gaia. I have my reputation.
Okay.
To maintain here, Hades, if my Sibyl started lying and stretching the truth whenever it suited one of you gods, no one would trust this oracle. No one would pay to see the Sibyl. I have my retirement to consider. I see your point, but good. Granny Gaia cut me off. But Granny, I cried. Poor Medusa. She's... Go away, Hades, said Granny Gaia. Don't meddle with my Sibyl. With a whoosh, the gray smoke was sucked back into the crevice. Sulphurous yellow smoke floated up to take its place. Next pilgrim, called the Sibyl. I made my invisible way out of the cave and flipped the sign back to open. I couldn't believe it. Foiled by my own granny. Perseus stood next in line. I should have known he'd find a way to cut ahead.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking to an oracle whose official name tag read Lelix. That will be 15 drachmas, said Lelix.
Okay.
There's a charge? Asked Perseus. Lelix glared at him. Take a look up there. He pointed to a huge serpent that was coiled around the top of Mount Parnassus. That's Python. He's the guard here, and he makes sure no one gets in to see Sibyl for free. How about an IOU? Asked Perseus. He and Lelix haggled for a while. Finally, Perseus signed a slip of parchment. If Perseus was anything like his father, Lelix was going to have that IOU forever. When the deal was done, I followed Perseus back into the cave. The Sibyl gazed at Perseus. "Speak, pilgrim," she said in a low voice. "What is your question for the oracle?" Perseus said, "Where is the home of Medusa, the Gorgon?" The Sibyl leaned forward over the smoky crevice and called down the question, "Where is the home of Medusa, the Gorgon?" She leaned so far that 2 legs of her tripod left the ground. There she balanced over the chasm with her eyes closed and smoke billowing up into her face.
Okay.
At last, the sibling leaned back, raised her head, and turned slowly towards Perseus. Mother Earth has spoken. We must go to the land of acorn eaters. I groaned inwardly. I groaned inwardly. I've been to that land, also known as Donana.
Dodona.
What you
Dodona.
said.
Dodona.
It was filled with thousands of oaks. The trees scarred to Zeus.
Sacred.
The oak tree. What was that?
Sacred.
Oh, sacred to Zeus. Sorry. The oak trees of Donana had the power of speech, and they babbled insensely, revealing the will of Zeus. Where's that? Asked Perseus. The Sibyl sat with her head bowed. She made no answer. Wait a minute. That's it? Said Perseus. The Sibyl was silent. What kind of answer is that? Cried Perseus. I came all this way for one sentence? The Sibyl was silent as a stone. Excuse me. I'm next, said a mortal coming up behind Perseus. Your time is up. Perseus gave a grunt of frustration and stomped angry out of the cave. These mortals, I thought, hurrying after him, they expect so much.
Okay, you guys, we're going to go ahead and stop right there because it's
Good time.
6 minutes till.
Sure.
So,
Man, it was getting good and fun.
You
yeah,
swear. The
yeah,
book
man.
is
Do
This
y'all
good.
want to
looks so
keep,
much fun.
do y'all want to do one more chapter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, come on.
Tally ho.
Okay.
Let's do it. All right,
Well.
then. Love it. And chapter 11. Oh, no, chapter 10.
Chapter 10.
Sharper cheddar. I stuck with Perseus for 4 days as he hiked, rode, sailed, hitched, and climbed his way to Dodona. At last we reached the land of the acorn eaters. There were oak trees as far as the eye could see, and the place was totally overrun with squirrels. The inhabitants of Dodona were small, scrawny mortals. They all wore helmets to protect their heads from falling acorns as they darted among the oak trees, collecting acorns to make flour for their world-famous Dodona acorn bread. They had to move fast or the squirrels beat them to the acorns. Perseus bought some cheese and a loaf of Dodona bread from a roadside stand with another IOU. While he sat munching by the
Side of the road, I astro traveled into the town of Dodona in search of yummy to eat. The best I could do was an acorn burger with a set of acorn fries of a diner. I ate quickly and zipped back to where I left Perseus, but he was gone. I couldn't let that pesky mortal out of my sight for 2 minutes. I walked invisibly down the road, keeping my ears open. I figured I'd hear about Perseus from the oaks, but they only shouted, "Who's the fairest god of all, Zeus?" And tonight, on Zeus's channel, Zeus meets Homer, the Olympians. Don't miss it. Or they brag to each other about having the biggest acorn. I kept going. At last I heard a promising conversation and stopped to listen. "Of course he's a god," said a tall oak, moss covered to the north of its trunk. "No, he's a mortal," said the brushier oak on the other side of the road. "I said he's a god." said the tall oak, and I'm bigger, so what I say goes. Oh, you don't know anything, said the bushy oak.
Okay.
Okay. I winced. They both sounded like Zeus. Here he comes again, said the tall oak. If he isn't a god, I'll drop my leaves. Big deal, said the bushy oak. You'll drop your leaves anyway come fall. I squinted down the road. Sure enough, here came Perseus. Which of you oaks can tell me where Medusa dwells? Perseus was shouting to the trees. But the oaks only shrugged their branches. I smiled. They didn't have a clue. Perseus stopped between the tall oak and the bushy oak. Who can tell me where the Gorgons live? He cried. We can only know what Zeus knows, the tall oak told Perseus. Zeus knows practically everything, said the bushy oak. But the one thing he doesn't know is where the Gorgons live. But he must, cried Perseus. The Sibyl at Delphi sent me here to find out. She wouldn't have done that if you couldn't help me.
Okay.
Oh, don't be so sure, said the tall oak. This could be the first stop on a quest. And by the way, you're immortal, aren't you? Said the bushy oak. Yes, said Perseus. I told you so, said the bushy oak to the tall oak. Drop your leaves. That was the deal. You'll look so funny when you're bald. These oaks were Zeus with bark. The tall oak sighed and started flinging its branches about in the most alarming manner. Squirrels leaped into neighboring trees as leaves started flying in every direction. Hey, watch it, said Perseus, jumping out of the way. In no time, the tall oak's branches were bare. Happy now? He said the bushy tree. You look awful, said the bushy tree. So don't look, said the tall oak. I'll grow new leaves next spring. Spring. The very word made me think of Persephone. Sorry. Oh, I wish I could be done with Perseus so I could go to Athens and visit her.
Okay.
Thank you, Perseus said to the oak. Tell me something that will help me find Medusa. We can only tell you what Zeus knows, says the tall oak. Just then an owl flew down and perched on a bare branch of the tall oak. What was an owl doing flying around in the daytime? I had a bad feeling about the bird.
Mm.
All right, Perseus said to the oak. Tell me something Zeus knows. The oak bent their trunks so that their branches nearly scraped the earth. Then they rose and they both began talking at once. You are under the protection of the gods, said the tall oaks. Who? Said the owl. You, Perseus, said the busky oak. The gods are watching out for you. How did the oaks know what I was looking out? I was looking out for Perseus. Had Poe mentioned it to Zeus? Which gods? Asked Perseus. All of them. Not all, said the bushy oak. The gods hardly even team up that way, said the tall oak.
They can, excuse me, I'm going to get this. Okay. They can never agree among themselves, said the bushy oak. More likely, one or two gods, said the tall oak. Maybe three, but that's the limit.
Who?
Hooted the owl. Me, protected by the gods? Perseus smiled. I always knew I was a pretty special mortal. This proves it. But tell me, Oaks, how can I call upon these gods to help me find Medusa? Oh, you can't call upon them, said the bushy oak. No, no, no. They call upon you, said the tall oak, if they feel like it. That's how it works, said the bushy oak. So I just have to wait, said Perseus. But I hate waiting. I stifled a laugh, like father, like son. Suddenly, a blinding flash lit the sky. It was followed by a second equally blinding flash. Yikes! Said Perseus. What is going on? Out of the light, Athena and Hermes appeared. I knew that owl was a bad omen. Great acorn capes, explained the tall oak. Was I ever glad I was invisible? Now it became okay.
Clear to me that I wasn't the god the oaks meant at all. Perseus was under the protection of these two clowns. Greetings, Perseus, said Athena and Hermes together. Most mortals would have been struck, speechless, by the appearance of two powerful Olympians, but not Perseus. Greetings, immortals, he replied. I am Athena, said the goddess. This is Hermes. We were sent by your father, Zeus. Ah! Exclaimed the cocky Perseus. I knew my dad was a bigwig. Zeus said to tell you he's sorry you turned out to be mortal, said Hermes. I told you he was mortal, said the bushy oak. He had mortal written all over him. Oh, drop it, will you, said the tall oak. We have come to aid you in your quest to slay Medusa, Athena told Perseus. I don't need any help, Perseus declared. I can do it myself. No one turns down the help of the gods, said Hermes.
Okay.
I do, said stubborn Perseus. A hero must act alone. Athena rolled her eyes at such an attitude. I have unfinished business with Medusa, he said through clenched teeth. A seer told me that I can find Medusa only with your help, Perseus. I need you to lead me to her. Hearing this, my invisible jaw dropped open. So much for Persephone's theory about Athena needing a mortal with a purse. The seer had meant mortal Perseus. I should find Medusa and behead her, cried Perseus. But I must do it alone. Athena swallowed. I could tell she would have liked to run her spear through this bull-headed mortal, but she restrained herself. All right, Perseus, Athena managed to say. We won't step in when you do the deed, but at least let us equip you as a hero. Having the right tools for the job can make a huge difference. A humongous difference, said Hermes. Plus, looking your best while doing heroic deeds is essential. You know, for all the hero artwork that comes afterwards. The paintings, the statues, and so forth.
And so forth. That's why we ordered you some gear from the Sharper Mortals catalog. Here, take this. He handed Perseus what looked like a very sharp sickle. It's an ultra-light Gorgon Scalper Deluxe. This baby can slice through anything. Perseus clipped the sickle to his girdle. Thank you, Hermes. He has good manners, said the bushy oak. For a mortal, said the tall oak. These are winged sandals, said Hermes. Perseus wrinkled his nose. They've been worn. They're vintage, exclaimed Hermes. These little booties cost 3 times what a new pair of winged sandals costs, if you can even find a pair in your size. Hermes stepped back to admire the sandals as Perseus put them on. No more trudging from land to land on your quest to find out where Medusa lives. Now you can fly. Perseus smiled. How do I get them to flap? There's a little button on the inside ankle strap of each sandal, said Hermes. Next item, said Athena. She handed Perseus the shiniest shield I have ever seen.
Okay.
Oh, exclaimed Perseus, looking happily into the shield. The eyes, the hair, the chin, very handsome. Thank you for the mirror. It's not just a mirror, Perseus said, Athena petulantly. It's a mirror shield unity combination. Oh, utility combination, sorry. It comes with a voice mechanism to listen. She pressed the lever on the edge of the shield, and a loud voice called out, Surrender immediately.
Hmm.
I can shout that out myself, said
Right.
Perseus. The voice mechanism is totally optional, said Athena. Now, when you find Medusa, don't look directly at her. Any idiots know that, said Perseus. Right, said Athena. But cutting off her head without looking at her might be tricky. Not for me, bragged Perseus. Even for you, Athena said. But if you look at her reflection in this shield, no problem. You mean I could look at her in the shield and not be turned to stone? Asked Perseus. Exactly, Athena smiled. Medusa will be history. I am ready, cried Perseus.
Okay. Not quite, said Hermes. You need 2 more items to complete your mission. They aren't available from the Sharper Mortals catalog. These 2 you can find only by going. I felt a buzzing sensation on my scalp, then a jolt. Suddenly I was visible again. Yikes! I jumped behind the bushy oak. Intruder! Interloper! The tall oak called out, hiding behind me. How dare you? Called the bushy oak. Shh! I said, kicking its trunk. No! Cried the bushy oak. He strikes the sacred oaks of Zeus. Luckily, the impact of the kick jarred my helmet, and I disappeared again. Hermes looked around. I don't see any oaks, he turned back to Perseus. After you get these 2 items, go to the foot of Mount Atlas. Athena and I will meet you there tomorrow. Huh, okay. Well, I'll be there, said Perseus. He bent down and pressed the buttons on his sandals. The wings began flapping, lifting him into the air. Whoa! He cried, flailing his arms, lurching forward and backwards. In this awkward state, Perseus disappeared into the sky. Okay.
Brad?
I was about to take off after him when my helmet started buzzing. I hated to leave Perseus on his own, but I couldn't take a chance on my helmet shorting out again. The thought of what might happen if Athena saw me made my eyes up again. My eyes up. So instead of trailing Perseus, I astro-traveled back to Phaedon's garage. I whipped off my sputtering helmet and slipped it into my wallet. I take it right to the Cyclops. Uncle Shaner could fix it up for me, and I'll be back on the trail with Perseus in no time. I'm off to the underworld. Happy to have left Sedona and its yakking oaks far behind.
All right.
Woo!
Woo-woo!
Woo!
Yeah.
Well, now we see that little Perseus grew up to be a very arrogant young man.